Howdy lovelies, how are you all doing? Welcome back to our crafting, where we learn, grow and craft together. In today's session, we're going to look at other ways to actually make our paper looking a little bit more vintage. In a previous video some time ago, I showed you how to do coffee dyeing and tea dyeing. Today we're going to use some of those papers and we take it a step further. So let's get right to it. Here I have some of our previously coffee and tea dyed index cards, cardstock envelopes. Now there's a few ways that you can actually make this look more vintage. The one, of course, is the dyeing, and this can go into eco dyeing. Eco dyeing is using fruit, vegetables to actually dye paper. It can also be some flowers, some plant materials that you then make a solution with. You dip your paper in it and let it dry in whichever way you want then. Whether that is in an oven, naturally, in the sun, it's up to you. You can also use the same type of concept. I don't have any of those plastic mats, but the little ones that looks as if it's crocheted or it is got flowers and things on. You can cut those out and you can lay it on your paper. And as it dries, it will then have those motifs on there. Now today's session is simple. We are going to, now these were tea dyed, and you can see that the tea dye, let me put that on the cardstock, then you can see the color. This is a browner color, where this is a little bit more red. Now it's got this red effect because of the rooibos tea. Now what we're going to do, I almost bumped my cup of coffee over here. Yes, that's something I always have with me, is a cup of coffee. Now for today's session, I just want to grab, I've got a bit of very strong, you can see it's really strong coffee. It's instant coffee. I've got a dropper here or a pipette, call it what you may, and I've got some paintbrushes. Now the simplest way is you can dip your paintbrush in and just splash on your paper, cardstock, envelope, whatever you have, and you can see that it actually absorbs real quick and it will also dry. Now you can add some coffee. See, that's why I need the paper towel for the work surface. You can actually do this lightly, splash it in various ways, and each one will look different. Now this one can just dry. I'll just move it out of the way for a moment, and then I want to show you something else. And for that, I'll use one of these little ones. I just want to dry those splashes. You can see that one of the cards here have got a splash. Doesn't bother. I'm going to use a stencil, and I'm just going to place this on top here. Now with that very same brush that I just used to splash on that other cardstock, I'm just going to lightly color this. You can even do it with a bigger brush. Let me just show you. Not too much coffee, just dipping it in there slightly, and there we have that. It's not going everywhere, but there you have it. No, you're not guaranteed, because it depends on how much coffee is going underneath the stencil, but that can also work. So I'm just going to show you another way, and that is to just brush some coffee right around the edge. And you can leave this a little bit time consuming, but it could be a nice Sunday afternoon or a Saturday afternoon activity where you want to do something, but you're not sure what. But by getting your things ready and changed, they are ready for the next time that you do want to grab something and start crafting, which is what I do often. I will get things ready in preparation, like I've shown you before with doing my tag and journal card bases. For these, that will be great background. It will be a great background. It's not the complete background, but it is part of the background. Here you can see there's a lighter part, some darker ends. You can maybe just go in and use that and just brush a little bit more there. Make the puddle a bit bigger and leave it as such. And the same here. Make a puddle and pull it to one side. It will look then like a splash. We just need a bit of more liquid here. And it could be that. So you can literally sit and play with this any which way you want. and it will absorb quickly. You can add a little bit to the sides. It's really up to you. And remember, this was tea dye that I am now adding coffee to. And there you have. This one is almost dry. Yes, it's still damp, but I can now touch it and nothing is coming off on my fingers. So it really, really, really dries very quickly where I am. You can even do some writing. I'll just do some simple numbers in your best penmanship. You can now dip your finest paintbrush that you possibly have, and you can just do some writing on there, and that is a different way that you can have this age look on your paper. Not too much coffee, because it will make a blob. Could be part of your background. And you can just continue as if you have this whole big piece of paper in front of you. So there you have some ideas. You can even go in and do a bit of painting as if this was water paint. Let me grab another little card, maybe one of these. And remember, I am no painter. I cannot even draw a stick man. And this can stay on there. I would just like to just put a darker border around this, and this can be a little journal card all by itself, or it can be used as a background. Do some lovely stamping on it, part of a collage. Oh, and just as an afterthought, none of these papers were ironed or anything. It's just the way that I have let it dry. And remember, I told you I turn it every half hour so that it can dry evenly from all sides. And then this is it. And remember, paper has got no memory. You can eventually just manipulate it so that it is dry. Another way, and I'll just move this out of the way for a moment, is for us. This is almost dry. There's a tiny little bit of wetness there. This one has got that little splotch on it. Maybe I should just dip this in there and give another one, like so maybe. Then that little droplet is not so lonely. The next way that we can do this, I'll just put this out of the way as well, could be to use ink. I'm going to grab my vintage photo. I must be honest, I actually prefer to use the mini for this, but you can use the regular size. So I'm just going to grab one of these cardstock pieces that we have done previously. Now, just crumple it up, but with cardstock it's so much more difficult because it's harder, so it can tear easily. Don't do this when it's wet. You will tear your paper. So just crumple it up as best as you could without tearing it too much. Already have parts where it is torn, and now I'm going to just straighten it out, decide which side I want. Let's do this side, as it can still go flat, and then I'm simply going to run my ink across this, especially the parts where it is wrinkled, crinkled, can add more crinkles to it if you want. You can actually turn it over and do the same thing on the other side. Maybe you want to use this in a journal that you will see both sides of the paper. That is a different way of doing that. Now you can also add different color ink. And again, you can sprinkle this. I'm using rustic hinge now. Rusty hinge, sorry, not rustic, rusty hinge. I almost put that there, it will not work. So that is a different way. You can now go in if you want to and add a little bit of coffee still. It's really up to you. Splash it on there. It's your paper, you can make it look whichever way you want. So you can add ink, you can add the coffee. So the next part, you have seen me do this before, and I'll use some of the smaller cards, just a handful. And then we need some packaging material, not a small one. We do not need a small one. We actually need a big one. And what happened to all the big ones now suddenly? This is big enough. That is big enough. So for the next technique, we need some water, and we're going to just smoosh our ink onto the packaging material. You can do this on one of those glass mats if you have it. You can do it on a silicone mat. I'll just use the packaging material. That way I feel I've done something with it and I don't just throw it away. Now what are we going to do here? Some water, and I just want to dry that part up. I'm going to move this about a bit. Right. So I just want to get, if you don't smear it around, you will just get one big blob eventually, which is not what I want. So in here, you can now take that and simply dip it however way you want. See how easy that is? A beautiful effect with minimal effort, like minimal. And I just have a droplet of ink that side. That's bothering me now. And up to your desire. You can let it dry, and you can actually do this again. So this goes real quick, but also real far. You can do quite a few with this amount of ink. And it can be part of your backgrounds. And once you start with this, it's difficult to stop because it's so satisfying to watch. I'll put that one there, just so that it can dry. I'm just going to give one or two a bit of a wave here so that it can just dry quickly, because I want to show you the second layer. If it's not dry, you will get one big blob of ink. Oh, let me just see this one. If you do not wait for it, I will just put it a little bit there. You can see that second layer of ink goes on darker, much darker than the first. But it is hard to get ink over the same spot where you just inked it the first time around. You can see the layering happening there. And if you want more ink, you can simply add more. Remember, distress is made to react with water. And there we have those. So I will just be adding a bit onto the big cards as well. Not much, just a tiny little bit, especially where it's dry already. tiny ones. There's a bit of color still here. And the beauty of adding water that's still here at the bottom, you can now lift some of that ink as well, which is just amazing. So there we have it. We've got a whole lot of ways that we can now age our paper. Let's just bring it all together. We've got the ink smooshing technique. You can splash on coffee. Let's do that from here. Here you take a big one. Take a bit of coffee as well. And we can now, let's do a bigger blob. And that can just dry as it is. So there we have another. You can mix and match these, add coffee, add ink. It is your paper. So we've got the little ones with the ink only. We've got the bigger ones, and this one just needs to dry. These little ones, look at that one. It's dry. Yes, it smells like coffee for now, but that smell does fade over time. You can see the added coffee to this one. Still a little bit damp in the middle, but it adds beautiful dimension to your page. You can also use stencils with ink on top of these, and you can add more marks to your desire. Hope you enjoyed today's session. Thank you for joining me. Go try this for yourself. Stain your paper to your heart's desire, and see what you can come up with. And if you do, please tag Wawa Crafting on social media. If you want to see more content like this, give me a thumbs up. And as always, I'll be appreciating it if you subscribe to my channel too. If you haven't done so yet, please hit the notification bell so that you can be notified when I upload new content. See you back soon. Goodbye.